Discover how a cop's attempt to frame a new mayor with drugs uncovered an inspiring hidden truth. In the heart of Maple Creek, the air crackled with anticipation. Sarah Collins, all fiery passion and bright dreams, stood tall as the youngest mayor in the town's history. She had fought her way into office against the tide of corruption, a David in a world full of Goliaths. The dreams of her community swirled in her heart, sticking to her like the morning dew. Yet lurking in the shadows was a predator. Detective Mark Benson, once a decorated officer, stood ready to tear down her accomplishments, driven by his need for redemption. Sarah had grown up in a working-class neighborhood, her family woven through the fabric of Maple Creek. Every street she walked carried echoes of laughter from childhood friends. She carried the weight of her father's hard work, her mother's sacrifices, and the heartache of seeing her brother, Jake, slip into addiction. "I won't let this town down," she promised herself, her chest tightening with determination. She envisioned a thriving Maple Creek, a place where families could plant roots and dreams could blossom. But as she took the oath of office, whispering promises of change, trouble brewed. Rumors spread like wildfire, fueled by Mark's relentless pursuit of a narrative that could save him from obliteration. Closer and closer, he maneuvered, weaving his lies as deftly as a spider spinning a web. Sarah could almost feel the tingle of danger, yet her spirits soared in the support of her town. Neighbors rallied, sharing coffee and stories, reigniting their sense of community. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. A heated town hall meeting approached, the air thick with mistrust. The townsfolk turned against each other, trying to decide if Sarah was the savior or the mastermind behind some ill deeds. She felt the scrutiny like ice on her skin. When she stood up, the uproar softened, eyes locking onto her like a spotlight. "I am here for every one of you. We are Maple Creek," she cried, the fight bubbling up within her. The murmurs of doubt began to quiet, but Mark's hidden agenda loomed large, and the stakes rose, the tension sharp enough to slice through the air. Meanwhile, Jake stumbled upon a dark truth about Mark's motives, a flaw in the detective's facade which spun a fragile connection between broken souls. As they shared stories of hurt, empowerment blossomed, threading Jake back into his sister's life. Would they join forces, confronting the shadows together? In that moment of clarity, Sarah realized that this fight was bigger than her or her brother. It was about truth and justice for the town they loved. As she paused, hope flickered in her chest, igniting a fire for what was to come. The ground beneath her feet felt like both solid rock and quicksand. Could she muster the courage to face the looming storm? When she opened her mouth again, her words rang with fierce resolve. "Maple Creek deserves a future. And I will fight for it." With that, silence engulfed the crowd, hearts pounding, leaving everyone breathless. What would they choose next, and what echoes would her brave voice leave in the square? Tension surged as they stood on the brink of change, the possibility of truth swirling just out of reach. Would unity prevail, or would the shadow threaten to swallow everything they stood for? The town hall meeting left a palpable tension hanging over Maple Creek like a storm cloud. As people filed out, their faces were a mix of confusion and anger, with advisors and council members whispering fervently among themselves. Sarah felt every heavy gaze on her back, as if the weight of their expectations could crush her. She stepped down from the podium, heart racing, adrenaline coursing through her veins. Suddenly, a familiar voice cut through the murmur. It was Jake, pushing through the crowd, his face a patchwork of worry and determination. "Sarah!" he shouted, his voice slicing through the uncertainty. She turned to him, heart swelling at the sight of her brother, knowing he had stumbled onto something vital. "Did you find out more about Mark?" she asked, grasping his arm, her eyes wide with urgency. He leaned closer, urgency etched into his features. "We need to talk," but not here. It's not safe. He grabbed her hand and led her away from the throng, finding a quiet corner of the hall where the hum of voices faded. I overheard him with someone from the force. They have a plan to take you down, and it's worse than I imagined. What do you mean? Sarah's stomach churned as her fears solidified into a chilling reality. He has been planting evidence. He thinks if he can frame you, the town will turn against you completely. He wants to destroy everything you've built. Sarah felt the room spin, a mix of disbelief and fury igniting within her. But why? What could he possibly gain from all this? Jake took a deep breath, his eyes clouding over with the shadows of their past. He is drowning, Sarah. He is losing his badge, his career. He thinks if he brings you down, it'll somehow save him. The pain of betrayal mixed with sympathy twisted in her chest. He could ruin lives this isn't just about us. Exactly, Jake replied, his voice intense. But together, we can expose him. We can clear your name and help heal the town. We have to act fast. The thought of standing against Mark filled her with dread and courage all at once. Okay. We need a plan. They quickly brainstormed the details, gathering documents, asking questions, and unearthing the network of alliances Mark had woven. The brother-sister duo moved through their childhood neighborhood, tapping into old connections for leads, piecing together the puzzle of deceit. Each lead revealed another layer of Mark's plan, and with each revelation, their resolve strengthened. Market stalls bustled with life, families shared laughter at park picnics, and Sarah felt the heartbeat of Maple Creek echoing around her. They weren't just fighting for her, they were fighting for their home. This ignited a fire in her spirit, pushing her forward. Jake, if we do this right, we could turn the narrative back. We can help people see what is really happening, she said, her confidence growing like a flower breaking through the frost. They rounded a corner into the heart of the town, where old oak trees cast dappled shadows on cobblestone streets. People were starting to notice Sarah again, recognition lighting their eyes. She knew now more than ever that this was where she belonged. She couldn't let Mark win. As they approached the park, where children played and couples strolled, a moment of clarity hit her. I need to rally the people, Jake. If they see we're united, Mark can't win. We have to show them the truth. Her eyes shone with fervor, but as they prepared to share their plan, they noticed movement at the edge of the crowd. A figure was watching them, a smirk curling on his lips. It was Mark. Good luck with that, he called out, his voice dripping with sarcasm. You're going to need it. As he turned and walked away, the realization settled like a lead weight in Sarah's gut. They were running out of time. The time for action was now, or the darkness that threatened to swallow her town would close in for good. What would they uncover next? And could their courage pierce through Mark's web of deceit before it was too late? The sun hung low in the sky, casting an orange glow over Maple Creek as Sarah and Jake stood at the foot of the park's main gazebo. Families wrapped in laughter floated around them, the scent of summer barbecues wafting through the air. But for Sarah, the festive atmosphere felt like a cruel joke. Her heart raced, tangled in fear and determination as she prepared to face the crowd. Are you ready? Jake asked, his voice barely above a whisper. He squeezed her hand, grounding her in the chaos of her thoughts. No. The words slipped out before she could stop it. Fear gripped her like a vice. She wanted to run, to hide from the looming confrontation. What if they don't believe us? What if they choose to trust him? The truth has a way of cutting through the noise, he replied, his calm reassurance wrapping around her like armor. You're their mayor. You stand for them. Show them what Mark really is. Show them who you really are. Taking a deep breath, she scanned the faces before her, the familiar ones, the smiling families, the hopeful eyes of a community that had already started to lose faith. She felt a rush of emotion clenching her throat. What they needed wasn't just her words, they needed hope. Look, she said softly, her voice cracking slightly. I know you all have listened to Mark. You have reason to doubt, and I understand. I can't ask you to just believe me without proof. She paused, gathering her composure, the quiet of the park infused with the tension of her words. But I can show you that there's more than what you've heard. As she began, she felt a weight lift from her shoulders, the words flowing freely like a river after rain. She spoke of her vision for Maple Creek, the vibrant community it had been, the future they could build together. Her heart, raw and exposed, resonated in every argument she made, revealing her love for the town. Jake stood by her side, chiming in with stories from their childhood, the very streets they had played on, memories intertwined with the hope of what was yet to come. We can't allow one person to tear us apart, he added, looking over the gathered group. Together, we are stronger than any lie. The crowd began to shift, murmurs rippling through the listeners as hope started sparking in their eyes. Then, as if summoned, a voice rose from within the crowd. We believe you, Sarah! An elderly gentleman called out. Show us what you have. That one voice opened the floodgates. Others chimed in, sharing their own experiences with Mark, the doubts they had about the events leading up to the town hall. The energy in the air changed, weaving a tapestry of solidarity. They were hungry for the truth, hungry for unity. But before Sarah could bask in the warmth of encouragement, a shadow crossed her path. It was a chill in her spine, a sense of looming danger. Mark was returning, not alone, but with a group of officers by his side, their uniforms glinting ominously in the fading sun. Looks like we have a little rebellion on our hands, Mark sneered, eyes glittering with malice. Come to see the truth, folks? Here it is. Sarah Davis is nothing but a criminal masquerading as your mayor. Gasps erupted from the crowd, the joyous energy of moments ago turning to fear. Sarah's heart pounded harder than before, but she wouldn't falter. Stay with me, she shouted, pushing through the growing anxiety. Don't let him confuse you. We have proof. But as Mark pointed to the officers beside him, Sarah felt doubt creeping into the corners of the crowd, whispering threats of authority. The stakes were higher than ever. Would the townspeople stand beside her as she faced Mark and the forces behind him? Sarah steeled herself, knowing that the fight was only just beginning. What would the officers do? Would this confrontation lead to salvation or destruction? Sarah's voice trembled but held firm as she gazed out at the crowd, their faces a blend of confusion and fear. This was the moment where everything could change, where truth and lies were ready to clash right before their eyes. Mark stepped forward, his smug grin spreading wider with every word he spoke. What proof do you think you have, Sarah? You think a handful of sweet words can shield you from the consequences of your actions? He gestured to the officers, who stood stoically behind him. Let us show the good people of Maple Creek what real leadership looks like. Mark, just because you have the badge doesn't make your accusations true. Jake shouted, stepping slightly in front of Sarah, as if to protect her. The crowd shifted, unease rippling like a current. Your mayor has compromised the very values we stand for, Mark continued, his voice echoing against the trees, amplified by the tension. Drugs were found in her office. She intends to ruin this town. Isn't that right, Officer Harris? The officer beside Mark stepped forward, casting a wary look at Sarah. We have reason to believe she is involved in something much more serious than you imagine, he affirmed, though his voice lacked conviction. A murmur washed through the crowd, and Sarah saw doubt flicker in some eyes. She couldn't let that happen. Not now. Listen. Her voice struck like a hammer against glass, demanding attention. I may have made mistakes, who hasn't he? But I would never do anything to harm this town. I love Maple Creek. You know me. Her smile was a beacon, pulling those familiar faces closer together. Mark wants to tear us apart, to use fear to control us. But I'm here to fight for our community, for our families. I won't let him. A woman in the front, tears brimming her eyes, nodded slowly. We want to trust you, Sarah. Show us the truth. Encouraged, Sarah pointed at the officers. If I'm guilty, then let them search my office now. Right here, right now. Mark's expression faltered for just a moment, hesitation flaring between them. But then, he laughed, a chilling sound. You really think we'd fall for that? What do you have? Nothing but a hollow heart. Nothing is hollow if it's fueled by love. Jake countered impassionately. There are no lies in her heart for this town, Mark. The truth strengthens us. It's you who's hiding behind cruelty and manipulation. A flicker of sympathy ignited in the eyes of some townspeople, but fear lingered like a shadow over the crowd. Sarah could feel it. The weight of their doubts threatened to pull her under. Then Sarah's eyes locked onto Mark's, subtle yet determined. You may have the officers, Mark, but your corruption runs deeper. You think you can control us with fear? You'll find that trust is stronger than any accusation. Louder murmurs swept through the crowd, as people began to connect the threads Mark had woven of distrust. Some voices emerged, tentative but gaining strength, echoing her sentiments. But then, out of the corner of her eye, she spotted two officers moving toward the gazebo's steps. She felt her stomach flip. They were advancing with purpose. Stay strong. Jake encouraged, but anxiety flickered in his eyes too. Mark, this is your last chance to back down, Sarah called, heart racing as she hoped for one moment of clarity, one moment of courage from her community. The two officers reached her, and Sarah braced herself, filled with a mix of anticipation and dread. Would they seize the moment and turn against Mark, exposing the truth? Or would they remain steadfast in the shadow he cast over them? As the silence hung heavy, waiting to see what would unfold, Sarah felt both terrified and alive. The moment was hers, and the course of Maple Creek hung in the balance. But as the officers stepped closer, a shout erupted from the edges of the crowd. Wait! I have something to say. What revelation would come forth from the shadows? Would the townspeople rally behind her or crumble under the weight of Mark's deception? As the crowd parted, all eyes turned toward the source of the shout. A young man pushed his way forward, his face flushed with urgency. It was Tommy, a local mechanic known for his big heart and sharp sense of justice. He had always been someone Sarah trusted, often lending a helping hand to anyone in need around Maple Creek. Sarah, wait! He called again, shaking his hands as if to calm everyone down. The tension was suffocating, and the weight of uncertainty hung in the air. I know something that might help. The murmurs subsided, curiosity replacing the fears swirling in the crowd. Mark's face hardened, his earlier confidence wavering as he shot daggers at Tommy. Do you have any idea what you're doing? Mark roared. You're interfering with a matter of law. Ignoring Mark, Tommy stepped closer to Sarah, his expression earnest. I've been working late at the shop, and I saw something suspicious outside your office the other night. He paused, gathering courage. There were two men. I think they were setting something up to frame you, Sarah. Her heart raced. Could this be the break she needed? What do you mean, Tommy? What did you see? They looked shady, like they were up to no good, he explained, glancing around at the assembling crowd. I thought about reporting it, but I didn't know who to trust. I didn't want to get involved, but seeing you here, fighting for the town, made me realize I couldn't stay quiet any longer. The crowd listened intently, some faces revealing flickers of hope. Mark clenched his fists, desperation creeping into his voice as he barked, This is nothing but a distraction, folks. Are we really going to believe the word of some mechanic over established officers? Actually, an older woman from the back piped up, stepping forward with her cane. We know Tommy. He is honest. He has always been here for us. That's right. Another voice chimed in, emboldened. If what he says is true, then we have to find out. Sarah's pulse quickened as the crowd began to rally behind Tommy. This was the moment she had been waiting for, the spark to ignite their courage. Tommy, can you help us? Can you tell us exactly what you saw? I saw them slip something under your office door, he continued, eyes narrowing in recollection. I didn't go closer because I didn't want to get caught. But I heard them talking about how easy it would be to frame you. They wanted to cause chaos, to make it look like you were the problem. Mark's face turned an alarming shade of anger, and Sarah seized the moment. Everyone, this is our chance. If he saw it, we can prove my innocence. We can expose this truth and save Maple Creek. The crowd started to buzz with whispers of excitement and anger. The airs shifted, fear replaced by a fiery spirit of determination. They were ready to fight, But just as Sarah's heart began to soar, Officer Harris stepped forward again, a look of concern shadowing his face. Tommy, if you're wrong, you could be in serious trouble. You're willing to stake everything on this? I'm willing to stake everything to protect my town. Tommy shot back, unwavering. That's what we need. A united front, Sarah urged. Together, we can uncover the truth. We have to search my office right now. Let us do it. Came the roar from somewhere deep in the crowd. Suddenly, a loud crash broke the mounting excitement, drawing their eyes to the side. A shadowy figure darted past the perimeter of onlookers, a bag clutched tight to their chest. As gasps echoed through the crowd, Sarah felt her heart sink. Who was that? She whispered, but before anyone could answer, the figure slipped into the trees bordering the park. What are they hiding? Jake's voice cut through the commotion, his expression grim. Sarah's resolve hardened. We need to find out. Now. With the crowd ignited in determination, they moved as one, but anticipation tightened Sarah's chest, unsure of the truth that awaited them or the shadows that still lingered, plotting against their unity. Would they catch this figure in time? What secrets lay hidden in the woods beyond Maple Creek? The crowd surged forward, a sea of determination and curiosity, their collective heartbeat echoing in the woods as they chased the figure. Tommy's voice rang clear, urging everyone to keep their eyes peeled. Sarah, heart pounding, pushed through the throng, her breath quickening with each step. They were on a mission now, fueled by the desperate hope of redeeming her name and protecting Maple Creek. Which way did they go? She called out, glancing over her shoulder at the gathered townsfolk. Instincts took over as she followed the faint path leading deeper into the trees. Over here! Tommy's voice sliced through the uncertainty, catching Sarah's attention. She darted toward him, finding him kneeling on the ground, pointing at a crumpled piece of paper caught on a branch. Look! It might be something! He exclaimed, brushing leaves aside with trembling fingers. The crowd paused, tension crackling as they watched, hardly daring to breathe. With shaky hands, Sarah took the paper from Tommy's grasp. As she opened it, her heart raced faster, uncertainty dancing in her gut. It was a hastily written note scratched in messy handwriting was a list of names, her own scrawled in at the top. The names below hers were tied to the very people she knew were against her, corrupt members of the council and shady individuals from the town's fringes. What does it mean? What is this? Someone whispered, leaning closer to get a better look. It means they're trying to implicate me, Sarah said, the realization hitting her like a cold wave. The anxiety that had built in her chest began to shift into something sharper. Anger. They're using me as a scapegoat. The crowd murmured, unease spreading like wildfire. Mark's face twisted with fury. This doesn't prove anything. It could be a fake. A small voice piped up from the back. But if it's real, then maybe this is all a setup? Tommy stood, anger sparking in his eyes. That setup could lead to someone else. We need to get to the bottom of this. They all turned to Sarah, who felt the weight of their hopes pressing on her shoulders. We need to search with purpose, she insisted. Find anything that connects to this. If they're framing me, they'll have left a trail. We can use this. Let us split up. We can cover ground faster, Jake suggested, determination radiating from his posture. Good idea! Tommy nodded, already leading a group toward the northwest edge of the woods. As they fanned out, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. The oppressive silence of the wooded area weighed heavily on her, as if the trees themselves were holding their breath. Hope clashed with fear. The stakes couldn't be higher. If they didn't find something substantial, Mark's crew would only dig in further, tightening the noose around her neck. Suddenly, a rustling came from the bushes to her right. Everyone froze, eyes wide, peering into the shadows. Did you hear that? Whispered one of the older residents, gripping her walking stick tightly. Then, without warning, a figure emerged this time, not darting past, but stepping forward cautiously, hands raised in surrender. It was one of the men Tommy had described. The crowd tensed, ready to react. Wait! He shouted, a mix of fear and desperation in his voice. I can help you. Sarah's stomach twisted. Why should we trust you? I know about the plan. I didn't agree with it. I can tell you everything. His voice faltered as eyes turned steely on him. Sarah's heart raced, uncertainty gripping her again. Was this a trap, or a chance to uncover the truth once and for all? Tell us everything, she urged, pushing through the crowd that had closed in around them. As the figure hesitated, glancing nervously back toward the darkness of the woods, Sarah could feel the world teetering on a knife's edge. What revelations were he about to unveil? Would they save her or seal her fate? The figure took a deep breath, his eyes darting around as if weighing his options. Listen, he said, voice trembling, I know it sounds crazy, but I'm not the bad guy here. I overheard them planning something. They want to take Sarah down before she can expose their corruption. A murmur rippled through the crowd, disbelief mingling with curiosity. Sarah felt the tension shift slightly. Maybe this was a lifeline, a chance to learn more about who was really pulling the strings. Who are they? Tommy pressed, stepping closer, eyes piercing into the strangeress. The man hesitated, gulping. The council members and some of their hired muscle. They're not happy about the changes Sarah wants to make. What do you mean? Sarah asked, her pulse quickening at the idea that her very aspirations were being crushed underfoot by people she had trusted. They've been manufacturing evidence against you. Framing you for something you didn't do. I was supposed to help, but I couldn't go through with it. I want to help you set this right, he said, lowering his hands, revealing the fear that rumbled just beneath his bravado. Sarah felt heat wash over her. Why should I believe you? You could be another pawn in their game. I may have made mistakes, but this is my chance to make it right. I'm not like them. You don't know me, but I grew up in this town. I know what is at stake here, he said, meeting her gaze head-on. The crowd was silent, each person considering his words. Sarah glanced around, seeing both skepticism and a flicker of hope in her neighbor's eyes. They were searching for truth just as she was. Okay, Sarah said, determination igniting. If you're really here to help, then you need to prove it. What do we do next? The man's shoulders relaxed slightly. We need to find hard evidence. Something that ties the council to the plot against you. I overheard them mentioning a stash hidden near the old mill. Her heart raced. The mill was an old, decrepit place abandoned for years. It was a local legend, the last place anyone had thought to look. Then that's where we go. We'll head there together. Wait. Mark interjected, his tone urgent. You can't just trust him. This could be a trap. We should keep looking here. But Sarah couldn't deny the whisper of possibility blooming within her. If what he says is true, it could clear my name. We need to act quickly. Tommy nodded in agreement. Let us move out. We can't waste time. Sarah turned to the man. Lead the way. As they pushed forward, the trees thinned out, revealing the path toward the old mill. The sense of urgency hung in the air, thick and tangible. Every rustle of leaves became a potential threat, every shadow a reminder of the danger that lurked. Stay close, she urged as they began to descend into the hollow where the mill rested, shrouded in whispers of the past. Sarah could feel her pulse quicken as they neared the decaying structure. What would they find inside? And what would this journey reveal about the people she once trusted? As the first rays of moonlight broke through the canopy, illuminating the entrance to the mill, suspense crackled among them like static. They stepped forward, hearts pounding, each breath a silent question what awaited them in the darkness. Before they could step through that threshold, the sound of footsteps echoed behind them, heavy and deliberate. Sarah spun around, fear clutching her heart. Who else was following them? The confrontation was just beginning, and she could feel it in her bones, truth or betrayal. They were about to find out. Stay alert, she whispered, adrenaline pulsing through her veins. Would they be ready for whatever came next? The footsteps grew louder, and every one of them seemed to echo in Sarah's mind. She held her breath, her pulse racing. Who's there? She called out, her voice steadier than she felt. A shadow materialized from the darkness, and Sarah squinted to see it more clearly. The figure stepped into the light. It was Derek, an officer known for his loyalty to the council. The air crackled with tension as their eyes locked. "Well, well, if it isn't the little mayoral hopeful," he sneered, his voice oozing disdain. "What are you doing here? Hunting for ghosts? Get out of our way, Derek," Tommy warned, stepping forward, his posture tense. "We're not playing games." Derek smirked, but there was an underlying nervousness in his stance. "You think you can just waltz into that mill and come out unscathed? You have no idea what you're getting into." Sarah felt the weight of his words settle like a stone in her stomach. "What do you know about it?" Derek's grin widened, revealing more than just bravado. "Let us just say the mill holds more than just your precious evidence. It has a history all thanks to you." "What are you talking about?" Sarah pressed, dread settling in. But before Derek could respond, a rustling noise came from the bushes. Sarah's gaze flicked over, adrenaline sparking at the thought of others lurking in the shadows. More of them? She thought, indignation flaring. They wouldn't intimidate her. Not now. Suddenly, a figure burst from the underbrush, a woman with wild hair, eyes wide with fear. "They're coming. We have to go. They know we're here." "Who knows?" Mark barked, his defensive nature jumping to the fore. "The council, their guys. I saw them heading toward the mill." "They can't let you find out what's inside," the woman gasped, out of breath but urgent. "You have to trust me. I can help you." Sarah felt a wave of skepticism wash over her, but desperation clawed at her. "What's your name?" "Linda. I'm nobody special, just someone who's seen too much." "Why do you want to help?" Sarah asked, her heart hammering in her chest, not ready to take another leap of faith. "Because I couldn't stand by while they ruin lives. I saw them manipulate evidence. They're afraid of you. They need to keep their secrets hidden," Linda said, stepping closer, her eyes pleading. Derek's face darkened, a flash of anger crossing his features. "You really think you can trust her? She might be leading you into a trap just like I warned." "This is the last chance," Tommy said, his voice firm. "We can't back down. We won tea." They shared anxious glances, weighing the options against the rising threat. Sarah swallowed hard, knowing what lay ahead could change everything for her. The mill, it was a potential treasure trove of proof, and fear surged alongside hope. "Let us move, now," Sarah commanded, her heart racing. She took the first steps toward the mill, bracing herself for whatever lay in the darkness. With Derek behind, she doubted their safety but pressed on. As they entered the mill, the air inside was cold, filled with the scent of damp wood and something acrid. Shadows danced along the walls, and her heart raced as she thought of what this place could hide. They needed to be quick, they needed to be smart, and they needed to stick together. "Look for anything that might connect Derek's friends to the council," she whispered, her voice intense yet laced with a fear she could barely control. And as they spread out, something both chilling and exhilarating washed over her. Was the truth finally within reach? But just as they began searching, a loud crash echoed from the back of the mill, sending a jolt of terror through Sarah. Someone or something was in there with them. "Get back!" she shouted, her voice raw with urgency, as darkness loomed closer. With shadows closing in, they had to decide if they would confront this new danger or flee. In that moment, Sarah felt the weight of everything resting upon her. Would they find freedom in truth, or would fear bind them all? The crash had rattled the very bones of the mill, echoing like a death knell through the rotting beams and steel. Sarah's heart raced as fear clawed at her throat. She stepped back instinctively, trying to swallow the panic rising in her chest. "Tommy, Mark, stay close," Sarah barked, her eyes darting around the dim space. The room was cloaked in shadows, but adrenaline sharpened her senses. Linda, her expression a mix of pain and determination, gripped Sarah's arm. "Whatever's out there, we need to be ready." A shuffle came from behind some crates. Then, a plummet of a heavy object. Time seemed to slow as they all turned toward the noise, breaths hitching. "Derek, you said you knew all about this place. What else do you know?" Tommy demanded, stepping forward, ready to shield the group from whatever threat approached. Derek hesitated, perhaps gauging the strength of the group that stood against him. He regained his composure, sneering again. The mill holds more than just secrets. It's where they orchestrate their plans. Maybe I'll let you find out unless I change my mind and walk you straight into a trap. Do you think we care about your games? Sarah shot back, her voice trembling at the edges but burning with resolve. We're done being scared. The shadows lurked ominously as they walked deeper into the mill, the air thickening with the scent of mildew and desperation. Each step pressed down on Sarah like a weight. Her heart beat a rapid tattoo in her chest, but the harder she fought against the growing uncertainty, the stronger her resolve became. Then, the figure from the shadows emerged, and Sarah gasped. A man, scruffy with disheveled hair and a haunted look in his eyes. He was barely over 5 feet tall and trembling as if he'd just escaped a grave. Who are you? Sarah asked, her tone softer now, concerned. I'm just a worker here. They made me, he stammered, his voice trembling. They have cameras everywhere. I saw things. You can't find what's hidden in the light. It's in the dark corners. Tell us what you know, Linda urged, moving closer. The council, they keep everything secret in the basement. That's where they hide all the evidence. All the secrets, the man said, his words tumbling out like a dam burst. Derek's eyes narrowed, and he stepped forward, his bravado cracking. Don't listen to him. He's insane. This is all a waste of time. Or it's our only chance, Sarah countered, turning back to the trembling man. How can we get to the basement? Through the hallway at the back, he gestured slowly, trembling still. But they'll be waiting. They always are. Sarah felt a surge of dread, but beside her, Tommy's face was steely. Are you ready for this? Because there's no going back. Linda nodded, her resolve aligning with Sarah's. We can't turn around now. With a deep breath, Sarah nodded. Let us expose the truth. But as they moved toward the hallway, Derek lunged forward, pushing a crate toward them. The screech of wood scraping against wood echoed against the high ceilings. You can't win. The council controls everything. The group scattered, instinct taking over amid their shouts. Helpless but fueled by adrenaline, Sarah felt her heart pound. They had to hold their ground. But just as they regrouped, a distant sound of sirens began to wail, creeping closer. Now they'll know we're here, Mark shouted, urgency pouring out of him. Then we better move fast, Sarah replied, her voice steady despite her racing thoughts. They can't stop our truth. With the air thickening with urgency, they approached the darkened hallway, ready or not. As they crossed the threshold, determination glinted in their eyes. Each heartbeat had brought them closer to something colossal, something that could change everything. But would they make it to the basement before their pursuers caught them? The truth was one step away, yet danger lurked at their heels. Would this be the moment they discovered their power, or would it be their downfall? The urgency compressed every second, sending electrifying buzz through Sarah, and her resolve hardened with clarity. We can't let fear cripple us, she shouted, pushing forward as the sound of sirens echoed ominously outside the mill. Derek, we're not afraid of you or the council, Tommy declared, balling his fists, courage surging within him. The shadows that had once concealed so many secrets now flickered with the possibility of change. Together they dashed into a hallway, hearts pounding like war drums. The air was thick with tension, and the darkness cloaked hidden truths, both daunting and liberating. Stay close, Sarah urged, her voice steady yet fierce. As they crept further into the narrow space, shafts of light peeked through crumbling walls, illuminating the determined faces around her. I can feel it, Linda whispered, her voice filled with anticipation. We're close to uncovering everything. The hallway widened, and they reached a heavy door shrouded in shadows. With trembling hands, Sarah pushed it open, the hinges creaking like the wind meandering through an old tomb. Inside, a dimly lit room waited, cluttered with stacks of dusty boxes. But at the far end, an ominous trapdoor led down into darkness. It felt like the heartbeat of the mill, waiting for them to take the leap. Be careful. This could be a setup, Derek warned, but Sarah felt a fire ignite in her spirit. No more lies, no more fear! She shouted, propelled by the collective strength of her community behind her. This is where we take back our town. She swung open the trapdoor, revealing narrow stairs leading down. Tommy led the way, nervously glancing back as they descended, each step echoing into the abyss. "What's down here?" he asked, apprehension lacing his tone. "Only one way to find out," Sarah replied, determination fueling her footfalls. As they reached the bottom, flickering bulb light offered a glimpse into a hidden world. Walls were lined with files, evidence, documents, and dark dealings of corruption that spanned years. "This is it," Linda gasped. "This is what they've been hiding." A breathless silence fell upon the group as they spread out, searching for incriminating evidence. Sarah's heart raced. They were uncovering pieces of a grim puzzle. Were they truly ready for the truth? Then a sound broke the stillness, footsteps creeping closer. "We need to move, now!" Tommy hissed, the adrenaline surging once more. Sarah's gaze landed on a file labeled with her name. "This is it, the proof." But just as she reached for it, the trapdoor creaked open again. Heavy boots scrambled down the steps. "We've got company." Mark's voice cut through the air, thick with malice. "Find that evidence," Sarah ordered, her voice strong, motivating her friends into action. But as the officers descended, she felt fear claw at her once again. Suddenly, the room erupted into chaos. Voices yelled indistinctly, and Sarah focused on the file, her fingers trembling with urgency. She ripped it open, scanning through the contents quickly. Lies, fabrications, and dark plots filled the pages. Everything was here, laid out like a betrayal on paper. "Sarah!" Jake shouted, fighting back as the officers pushed through the doorway. "We have to go." "Not without this." She clutched the file tightly. "This proves everything." With newfound adrenaline, Sarah ran towards the stairwell, her friends following closely. The officers were on their tail, and their voices grew louder, threatening to engulf them. Outside, the echo of sirens morphed into more chaos. "Grab the others." "We'll show the town," Tommy urged, and they charged through the door into the open air. "Stop them!" Mark yelled, scrambling to direct the officers. But fueled by the fire of the truth, Sarah felt invincible. "Keep moving!" she shouted, leading them toward the park, their hearts pounding in unison. As they reached the square, the townspeople were still gathered, whispers swirling among them. "Look!" someone gasped, pointing towards them. "Sarah!" a familiar voice called out. It was her father, standing with her mother, eager apprehension filling their eyes. "Mom, Dad!" she cried, relief and love wrapping around her. The crowd turned, confusion etched on their faces as they noticed the scuffle behind them. "We found evidence!" Sarah shouted, brandishing the file like a trophy. "We can expose the truth together." "Show us!" The town clamored, voices rising in unity. She shared a glance with Jake, pride swelling her chest. As Sarah stepped forward, the crowd fell silent, anticipation thick in the air. "We want to be torn apart by lies," she declared, her voice strong and unwavering. "What you need to see is right here." She opened the file for all to see, revealing the manipulations that had nearly claimed her place, her fight. The silence was palpable. Faces transformed from mistrust to realization, the weight of truth beginning to settle among their hearts. "This was all planned," a man in the front exclaimed. "We were misled." Mark's face paled, anger laced with fear. "This isn't over," he shouted, but the resolve in the crowd was too strong now. "You're outnumbered," Tommy called out, confidence surging in the community that had once felt so corroded. One brave woman stepped up, trembling slightly but firm. "We won't let you destroy our town. We're standing with Sarah." The rest of the crowd erupted in loud affirmation, rallying around her, defenders of their own story. Sarah felt a wave of emotion crash over her full heart, tears of joy. This was it, unity in the face of adversity, allowing the light of truth to break through their darkness. As the officers shouted orders to disperse their ranks, the townspeople stood firm, an unyielding front against the forces that had tried to divide them. Sarah took a deep breath, looking at each of her friends, the faces that had fought for her, and for Maple Creek. Together, they had turned the tide. The hope inside her ignited into a roaring fire, pushing back fear. "This is our town. We'll fight together, for honesty, for love." And as they raised their voices collectively into the evening sky, a new chapter unfolded. Her fight wasn't just for herself anymore. It was for all of Maple Creek. With strength and solidarity, they stepped bravely into the light, ready to reclaim their town and build the future they all deserved. The battle had just begun, but with every heart joined, Sarah felt a wave of invigoration. Now was the time to act. Don't wait another second. Subscribe immediately to this channel to never miss an exclusive story. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Comment below with your reactions about this incredible ending and how unity can triumph over betrayal. And share instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You must support the channel, because only true fans know how important this is.